Okay, so welcome everyone to our Self-Directed Sport Network Skills Workshop, where we're going to share experience. We're going to share the personal experience of people from different countries as part of this workshop, which is going on for 3 hours. So we're just saying welcome to everyone. My name is Keith Etherington. I am here on Zoom from Scotland. I work for In Control Scotland, one of the skills partners. And I am going to try and hold together today. So we're just going to start with some information about the technical support and translation that should be available for you today. So I'm going to hand over to Nuri just to explain the way that the workshop is going to run technically.
Berta, would you like to say a few words about the Spanish translations first?
Yes, sorry, I will say it in Spanish. It's an opportunity to learn Spanish for everyone. Bueno, hola a todos y todas, compañeros, compañeras. Tenéis que, para la traducción, tenéis abajo un botoncito que pone traducción. ¿Sí? ¿Lo veis? Y pinchando en él tenéis que dar en español. Ahí escucharéis a Maggie, que es nuestra maravillosa traductora, y luego se turnará con Raúl. Si en algún momento alguien habla en español, que no creemos, pero puede pasar, los compañeros que hablan en inglés tendrán que pinchar en el botón de inglés. ¿Alguien tiene algún problema? ¿No? Everything is okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So we should have our simultaneous translation into Spanish. Nura, are there other technical things that people should know about today?
Yes, just a second. I'll share my screen. So here we have the timetable for today, and we will be having discussions in different languages in breakout rooms. So just in case there are any issues, for example, you can't get into the right room, we hosts can help you. So we would kindly ask you all to include your full name and country code in your Zoom name, so that if there's any issues, we can help you easily. And my name is Noora Tirkkonen, and I work with KVPS here in Finland.
Okay, thanks, Nora. Okay.
Keith, I could also say a few words about the Padlet, if you don't mind. Hello, everyone. I'm Heidi from KVPS also, and we have made a Padlet for us to. During this day, you can use it to write down some questions you have for the presentation or some thoughts you have in general about the workshop or ideas you have also. So I share the link in the chat box, and I can also show you the Padlet. How is it going to work? I will share my screen. Now, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the Padlet, and there are different columns for each presenter, like from Scotland experiences, there is one, and then for Finland experiences, there is one, and also one for questions or thoughts in general. So you can just write it down, whatever you like. You just click here and then write some questions or thoughts you have. And there is also some questions or things that we have like written down. I have an idea. You can share your ideas you have. in there. And if you would like to know something more about some specific thing, then you can use this column. And if you have just some things that you are wondering, then you can just use this one. It is quite easy. And if you want to erase the one you have already written down, then you can use this button here, and you can delete it and then write another one if there is something you won't like to share. So I think that is it. And I will share the link in the chat box.
Thank you, Heidi. Noura, can I ask you to share the agenda again, please?
Yes, just a second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'm asking you to share the agenda again, mainly because actually last time you shared it, I got a message through from someone that I needed to respond to, and I missed it. And I was quite keen just to clarify the agenda today for everybody, so that we have our introduction just now, where we're going through the various technical issues, and then we'll have a short welcome from Simon, followed that by Dr. Daniella Farrell from Scotland will be sharing a film where she speaks to some people about their personal experience of self-directed support. We will have national group discussions and the opportunity to speak in your own national groups about what you've heard, and then come back for a Q&A altogether. And then we'll follow a similar route with the Finland experiences after a short break at 12:30. So altogether, we're here for 3 hours, and we have a short break at 12:30 to give us a chance to get a coffee, make ourselves comfortable, go away and come back again. So thanks, Noura.
You're welcome.
So what I'm gonna do now is hand over to Simon, who's just going to give us a bit of the context and background to today's workshop, and why we decided that the first workshop of 2021 would be a workshop sharing the personal experiences of people.
Thanks, Keith. It's lovely to be here. This is very exciting. Not everybody may realize this is really the first transnational, lots of countries learning together about self-directed support online. And it's really the beginning of this thing that we've been creating now called the Self-Directed Support Network. Not very good English to begin with, and I apologize that this is the best we've come up with as a name. We will make mistakes because we are just learning. And the design of this event, maybe we'll learn how to improve it, but I think it's a very exciting moment. So please have patience with us and help us use the time well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, why are we focusing on stories? Well, for one reason is that the process of moving towards self-directed support always has to begin with one individual. We have to find the people who are already doing it. Sometimes, in my experience, it may be in Finland, in Spain, in Greece, in Italy, even quite sometimes secretly, there will be people who have been doing something close to self-directed support, but maybe nobody knows about it. Sometimes your early work, you will be creating the very first examples of people taking control of budgets, creating more innovative personal services. So that's where we begin. We always begin with the individual. Over time, we can learn how to make bigger changes, system changes, and have more and more people. But we start at the beginning, and the beginning is the individual and their story. So that's one of the reasons we focus on stories as our starting point, because, however grand our plans, In the end, you need to find somebody who wants to make a change, and you need to make the change with them. The third reason, or the other thing about stories that's very important, is they are the key to communicating the power of self-directed support. Politicians, professionals, families, people with disabilities, everybody remembers the story, not the statistic. So I quite like evidence and numbers and all of that, but most people, they will never remember the numbers. What they remember are the stories. And it's the stories that really connect heart and head. It's the stories that help us understand what's really important about self-directed support. So you will be hearing some really great stories, and you may have stories at home, but you will be able to now begin through this process to connect with people and help them tell their story and help that story become more positive. Help people connect with their dreams, their aspirations, and their gifts to build stronger lives, to become stronger citizens. So that is the real purpose of self-directed support. And stories is the most important tool of communication. So I'm sure there will be challenges on our journey, big challenges and small challenges today. Will be very well helped by Heidi and Nora and Petteri, though. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And Keith, do you want me to pass back, or I can't actually see Danielle on here. I'll pass back to you. And then, all right, I'm passing back to Keith.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Thanks for that introduction. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce somebody else now, but before I do that, I'm just going to say for those people who don't know, Scotland has quite a long history of self-directed support, including legislation and national policy, and we have legislation which came into force in April 2014. So now it's 7 years old. So the legislation around self-directed support has been in place for 7 years. So quite a long time, really. And the history of people directing their own support goes back even longer than that. And the national policy goes back longer than the legislation. However, if we go around Scotland, we still know that there's lots to do for self-directed support to really work well in the way that we want it to for everyone. So this is Scotland's experience, a history of self-directed support, good legislation, good national policy, but implementation which varies across areas. Today, I'm going to now hand you over to Dr. Daniella Farrell, and Danielle, is someone who does a whole variety of different work with us, and she'll explain her own situation and her own work to you, I'm sure, much more fully. And Danielle's going to introduce something that she's been doing as part of this project, really, which has been talking to other people who access self-directed support and direct their own support. So I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Daniella Farrell now. Or rather, as Simon said, I hope I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Daniella Farrell. I did see that Danielle was here, and I know she was having some technical problems earlier on, but I'm just going to check that she is here. Can you? Sorry, Danielle. Can you get on? Is your sound working there? Yeah. So what we've got here is Danielle is online, but the mic, we can't actually hear Danielle yet. That's right, isn't it? We're just trying to sort that. Just trying to sort that out. So. If this,
Hi Keith.
Hey, hi Danielle.
Sorry, I'm going between two computers here to try and get sound this morning, but it seems to be working now.
That's
sorry
great.
about that.
We can hear you very clearly now, Danielle. It's great to have you here.
So yeah, it's great to be here. Sorry about that. Do we have the the PowerPoint's there. So yeah. So hi everyone. It's great to be here eventually. As Keith said, I'm just going to explain to you a bit about the work I've been doing in relation to the skills project alongside In Control Scotland. But before I introduce the video, I'm just going to introduce myself and the work that I do for anyone here that isn't familiar or hasn't met me before. So if you can move on to the next slide, that would be great. So yeah, so I just thought I would introduce your options understood, or you as it can be abbreviated to, and myself and the work I do in conjunction with In Control Scotland. So your options understood is a community interest company providing a range of services for disabled people. And a lot of it is from my first-hand experience of living with cerebral palsy. I should make the point that I don't claim to know everything there is to know about living with a disability. I know my experiences, and I'll build what I know around that, and anything I don't know from first-hand experience, I'll certainly do my best to find out the right answer for people that I support. Your options understood also provides advice and guidance around self-directed support. Within that, I've also quite recently started to help people think about person-centred planning, and I've also developed some templates to enable me to provide that support online. So that helps people look at the dream and look at the bigger picture. I also provide advice and guidance to organisations who are seeking to be fully inclusive, and helping them to realise what inclusion really means and what steps they need to take to make that a reality within their business. I have been involved with In Control Scotland since being a graduate of the Partners in Policy Making course back in 2018-19 cohort, and they haven't been able to get rid of me since. I have undertaken various roles within In Control Scotland, more so in the last year during the pandemic, and just before the pandemic I was also co-facilitating a course with Keith and another Partners in Policy Making graduate, Debbie, which was working together for change, but unfortunately that had to be halted due to the pandemic. But we did some of the work online, and are looking now into how we might be able to carry on that work in the autumn. Also during the pandemic, I've had a regular slot on In Control's YouTube channel called, as part of the Tuesday Talks, called Being Danielle, and during my slot I've discussed various topics such as different disability awareness days, the importance of disabled people having their own identity, about ableism, and how that's important and recognised, or rather not recognised in some organisations. And another piece of work I've been doing is this piece of work I'm going to share with you today. So if and I guess that goes alongside some of the self-directed support work that I already do, and also it ties quite nicely in with some of the education and training that your Options Understood can provide. This is now available online as well as face-to-face once restrictions allow. So yeah, as well as being around self-directed support, the training and education is around a variety of topics, such as equality, disability awareness, and bespoke training can also be designed to cater for the specific training needs of various organisations. But as I say, today's focus is on self-directed support, but hopefully that just gives you an insight into your Options Understood and how we've connected with In Control Scotland and have quite a strong partnership now. If you can move to the next slide, that would be great. So why I did what I did, or what I did and why. I approached Keith because I've been involved in some of the skills work today. I believe I met some of you back in 2019 when I came to Brussels and spoke about my experiences of self-directed support in Scotland. And since then, the work has carried on, and now there's the booklet and some of the workshops that were designed in relation to it. And I felt that some of the content of the booklet could be brought to life. So I approached Keith to discuss this. And we discussed how I might be able to do this. So I looked at some of the examples that were already in the booklet, and I considered how to approach this digitally, so that people could access it more, especially since we're living in a digital world and people have more access to digital formats. So I thought that this was maybe the right time to do something like this, but I wanted it to tie in quite nicely with what already was in the booklet, but bring it to life in video. So after discussion with Keith, we decided that I would do this. And if we move on to the next slide, I'll tell you a bit more about how I did it. One of the key things for me was to try and bring some new voices to In Control Scotland. We had, including myself, who I'm also in receipt of self-directed support, so I know how important it is to people. But there are some people who regularly share the stories with In Control Scotland, like myself. But I wanted also to open this up a bit and bring some new voices to In Control. So I posted a post to gauge interest in social media in some closed groups, but also on my page and in the SDS Collective, which is a group in Scotland who regularly meet to discuss self-directed support and some other partners who are involved in that. So I put a post on pages like that on social media, and I very quickly got some new voices, some of whom you'll hear from today, to enable me to carry out the interviews in such a way that I got the information that was important. I came up with a series of questions, things like how has self-directed support changed the way you access support? What are the positives? What are the challenges? What advice would people give to anyone considering self-directed support? What has been their experience during the pandemic? Because in Scotland there was specific guidelines brought out during the pandemic in relation to self-directed support. I'm not sure if that's the case elsewhere in the world, but it was in Scotland. The information that I received from each interview was so rich, and people had some great examples to share. So to enable me to illustrate how rich the information was that I managed to obtain, I decided to break this down into smaller videos that answered each question, one of which I'm going to share with you just in a few minutes. The videos will, if they're not already, they will soon be available, all of them, either on In Control's website or on Your Options Understood's website. They'll be connected to both. So if you want to watch them, if you want to watch this one again or any of the other ones, feel free to go along there to find out more. But I hope that explains a bit about why and what I did, and I hope now to be able to share the video with you. The video that we're sharing today talks about each individual's experience of self-directed support and how this has changed in them accessing support. Some of the people are here today and will be willing to answer some questions afterwards. So in the video you'll hear from Ashley, Emma, Anne-Marie, Marjorie, Sanjeev, Debbie, who is another graduate, along with myself and Anne-Marie, and Ashley and Emma from Partners in Policy Making. So I hope you enjoy the video and hearing a bit more about their experiences. So how has self-directed support changed the way that you access support?
Yes, it's now, because before I was just a counsellor and wherever they suggested for care, and then if I wanted to change in my care, then we'd have to go through the council. But now it's so much easier. We just go directly with them, so the company or the PA. So if you want shifts covered and all like shift change, and we just go to them. It's so much easier.
Now he has the support he needs in the way that he needs it from the people that he chooses, and his life has gone on exponentially since he's feeling a sense of belonging. He's got his own place. It's like a new pin. He loves living there. He's got friends through their networks and through other people, because he's got people in his own culture supporting him.
No, well, no, we didn't get any support. All the support that we had was, well, it was just each other, really. You know, a little bit of sort of family help. But no, I had went on the partners in policy making course at the right point in my life. You know, and that was you know, really good in helping me stay focused on, you know, sort of the goal. And the goal is for Millie to have an ordinary, happy life, you know, not be restricted because of her disabilities. You know, and you know, she's really motivated to do all these things, you know, so it's very much child-led. You know, Millie gets to choose what she wants to do in her day, you know, and everybody supports her in her decision that she, you know, and that's kind of the way that it should be.
I think when we first came into SDS and support, I had a very blinkered view of what support looked like. You know, it was very much, people in and out of the house, and very, I don't know, I would say, I can't think of the word I want to say. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's gone. It's difficult to explain. I think it was more, I think, as you just said, the traditional, that somebody's in the house, which is a support we don't have actually at home. It's not a support for Caitlin at the minute that feels right for her or for myself. Having, she probably would, and this is maybe something we need to look into, benefit from support at home, and taking me out of the equation a little bit more on that side of things. But we went down the road of the traditional support, and it wasn't suitable. The feel of it was wrong for Caitlin, unfortunately. I'm not saying I'm sure in lots of situations that's the right thing for an individual, but for Caitlin it wasn't. And we've had to chop and change, and we've had to adapt, and we've had to try. It's very much been a case of trial and error, Danielle.
So as I say, the benefits are that you can have social control over like what you do, like who wants to provide, who you want to provide your support, and have some other examples where, like, I have an adapted car that I use, so I can, so use some of my budget to help towards the adaptation of that. And and I went a couple of times on holiday with Mum and a few others.
No, I think because it's mostly all that I've ever really known, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, prior to using self-directed support, I can remember, like I said, I remember being told I could employ someone, but I think my memory of that time as well is really shocking. So it's just a kind of vague memories of stuff. So my memories of support for Aidan actually mostly start at the time I was talking about before. So prior to that, I can't really think. But looking at the transition from Aidan being here to Aidan living in his own home, self-directed support made that possible, because it was able to go with him as we went through that transition, because we were in control of everything. We were able to work with his team to put in steps that we'd already put in place for them to provide that kind of best support for Aidan and apply it into his house. And I think also going back even further than that to using the office, when Aidan had been excluded from school, there was a real rocky period after, and it did settle once we got the office, that space for him to go. And so having Sea Change come on board at that point, trying to help build up that team around about him, get to know him. So they'd already kind of gone through that transition with them.
Yeah.
And to then kind of just sort of elevate that into the whole transition into his own home.
Yeah.
So they provided that kind of security for Aidan because he had the right team around him at that time.
Yes, when done correctly, it made a big difference. Instead of thinking about having somebody in X amount of hours every day to do my personal care needs, I'm somebody that's able to fund a course so that I can hopefully get back to work. I'm somebody that's able to go swimming, and I'm able to think about things that don't cost money. My support plan now is about what matters to me and what needs to happen in my day, and how I can achieve those things. So I'm able to. The other thing I think it's important is it's fluent.
Yeah.
The old system, you just had, this is it. There you go, have it.
Yeah.
Go away, leave us alone until your next review. Self-directed support is fluent. It moves with you, or it should, when done correctly. So it's about, because you don't stay the same from one day to the next, and the next year to the next year.
Human.
Yeah, we're human, we change. So what you decided is important for your support 6 months ago might not be relevant anymore. So the beauty of self-directed support, it's about you, and it's holistic, and it's about everything that matters to you, not just your care. So you're able to focus on the things that matter. And even if, the beauty of it as well, I think, is even if, because you've got a right to choose what's most important to you with self-directed support. So it might be that your OT or your care manager think what's important is that you have, I don't know, a wheelchair, or that you have somebody coming in and doing something for you all the time, but it might be that you don't really give a monkeys about that, and what matters to you is that you get to church once a fortnight, or that you go swimming, or that you create a new circle of support by meeting new people and getting out there and meet people and join a club, or it could be anything like that that's more important. And even if, yes, health-wise, this might be a suggested thing that you should be able to do, self-directed support, you're able to say, well, no, I'm sorry, but this is more important to me. And if I do this, obviously it's still got to be about outcomes. So you've got to be able to argue that by doing this instead, I will benefit this way, that way. And in turn, the thing that you're worried about will take care of itself, because I'm taking care of something that's more important to me. And then my confidence will be better. I'll be better able to equip to deal with things, etc. So it's fluent, and I think the old system wasn't. So I think that's an important thing about it, that it changes and evolves with you as and when you need it.
Okay, so we're just going to go back to Danielle, aren't we, Danielle?
Yeah, just for a couple of minutes before I pass back to you, Keith. So I hope you guys all enjoyed that video, and I hope it illustrated for you how self-directed support has changed the way some people access support in Scotland. I concluded each of the videos that are available now. I concluded each of these by pulling out some key messages that were illustrated throughout the videos. And for this particular one, the key messages that I felt came out really clearly from each individual who was interviewed was that that self-directed support has made things much easier than it was before. It enables independent decision making. It has also created a sense of belonging for people. People now feel that self-directed support means that their support is about what matters to them, as opposed to being resource-led. And it has changed people's perceptions of what support should look like. I'm sure that there are perhaps other key messages in there, but for me these were the 5 that stood out quite clearly in this video. But who better to talk to than the people who were actually interviewed in the video? So I'll pass back to Keith, who I think has got a couple of follow-up questions to ask the interviewees.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. Yeah, so as Danielle was saying, there are actually 5 short films now, each of them about 10 minutes long, and each film asks a particular question and has the same people answering that question in their own way. So as Danielle said, you're very welcome to view any of those 5 videos now, because they're all up online. We have, I think it's 4 people we have, don't we, Danielle? 4 people are in that film who are here today.
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have Marjorie, Ashley, Anne-Marie, and Emma.
Yeah.
Certainly, they've all been on here. If they've managed to, so they're all in here at the moment. And I think what I would quite like, I'm just really picking out from the questions that you've got there. I'd quite like just to ask them, to give them the opportunity to say something about the key points that you've put there, which is you've picked out that one. You picked out 5 key points, but I particularly was keen to ask them about my support is about what matters to me. So just really how they've been able to get support that matters to them through self-directed support. So I would actually quite, if I just go around people maybe, and Emma, do you want to speak first of all? And we could lose that slide now, Noura. Partly going to Emma because I know that you need
yeah,
to.
I need to go at 11. So
yeah, you need to go at 11. Yeah.
But yeah, self-directed support has made an incredible difference to my little girl's life. Really, what we're pursuing is an ordinary life, and you know, for Millie, she's not, because of her disability, it's really difficult to be able to access some things in the community. We use our self-directed support to her. Millie's PA is really young, and for us that was really something that was important, because we want it to be as an ordinary experience as possible. And I know I keep using the word ordinary, but that's because I think that that's really important. I think that it's really important that, you know, she has the access to the same opportunities as every other child. So we actually use our self-directed support really creatively. So it's Millie's personal assistant comes out and acts almost like a bit of a befriender in some respects, because Millie's finds it really difficult to make friends and stuff. So basically her personal assistant takes her out to the swing park and takes her out to the local community, and it's somebody different from mum and dad doing it. And she loves her. She absolutely loves her personal assistant. And the amount of joy that it brings to Millie's life is just incredible. And obviously it gives us as parents a little bit of respite, and it gives us time to be able to spend with her sister as well. So there's so many benefits from that. Yeah.
Just to ask you, so you recruited, you actually recruited and employ that person now, yeah?
Yeah.
So just to say, you get the money to do that from your local
authority,
government organization, from your local authority, and you recruit, you actually advertised and found that person.
Yeah, so yeah, Millie's got both Millie's personal assistants are young. So one of them is 17 and the other one is 18. And Millie doesn't get a huge amount of hours, so we get a very, very small budget. And partly that's just to do because of her age, and it's obviously about meeting her needs and stuff as well. So she gets 6 hours a week. And what our personal assistants do is they come, it's split up in a way that it's 4 consistent hours across the week, and they come and they take her out and take her to the swing park, to go and feed the ducks, to play with other children in the community, and it's brilliant. It works so well.
Okay, thank you. Have you got is there anything else you want to say? Or I'm going to try and bring everybody else in, but just anything else you want to say just at that moment?
Not that I can really think of at the moment. I think that I've probably said most of it before. In the previous interview and stuff. It's just it's night and day, the difference that it's made to our lives. Millie's so much happier because of self-directed sport. Our life's so much fuller and more fulfilled, because she has different people in her life that wouldn't ordinarily be part of our life. She's getting the opportunities to do things that there's only so much you can do as a mum, and she needs that little bit of
Okay, I think Emma might have frozen there. She's certainly frozen. I mean, certainly. I mean, we're in springtime here, but sometimes things do get frozen in Scotland. So I think Emma has frozen. So I'll actually move on to Ashley. Ashley, do you want to just come in as well? Hi, Ashley. You're just on mute still, yeah. That's it. Hiya.
Hey.
How are you doing today, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Where are you?
I'm in the room. Sorry, I've just noticed all the stuff, but I'm with my parents at the minute.
Okay, right. Your parents, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
So just say a little bit about you and what matters to you, and how self-directed support helps you to get support that matters to you.
Yeah, well, it's just like all we now doing, like pre-pandemic, I was, well, in the still have before I was in Edinburgh and in my part and have support 24/7, and I could use that to like go to church and get involved in various groups. Church, I could use it. Yeah, just to go out and about in Edinburgh to attend meetings that I'm involved in quite a lot of organizations, and just being able to have the flexibility to do that as well, and even things like having a degree, I wouldn't be able to get my degree.
Yeah. So you've been so Ashley, you've been doing that for a number of years, haven't you? You've been directing your own support for a number of years, and you moved from your family home to Edinburgh, and you're just telling us about your degree, and so you used it for helping you in education, and you also you were just saying about getting out to for you, church is really important, isn't it? And just really living the life that you wanted to live with your own support workers.
Yeah, and now I have church, so I go out and I meet people before they come to work with me. so I can get a choice in like who comes in the team, and I have a really good relationship with managers, so we work through things together.
Yeah. So like Emma was telling us that she employs the staff, but you don't employ your own staff, do you? You use an organization, but you're still able to be involved in deciding who it is that supports you.
Yeah, it takes it because I never used to be involved in it because like big organizations maybe don't tend to do that. Some the one I'm with, and you can totally understand why, but you know, I'm independent, so like if I have a problem, I need to fix that problem, and like with a staff member, but having that idea of choosing who you work with kind of and then should decrease the problem, and it should make it easier, and it feels like you're more in control because I like pre-COVID time I would go into the office of the organization and meet somebody, so instead of having a stranger come into your flat to be like, hey, I'm gonna work with you. You get that? You go into the office, and if you like someone, you ask them to come on board, and if you feel it's not going to work, you don't have to do it.
So that's been important to you, hasn't it? I'm gonna that opportunity to be able to be involved in deciding who works with you. I'm gonna move on to Marjorie and to Anne-Marie. Just and other people will have a chance to ask you some more questions afterwards, Ashley, as well, after they've gone and talked about what they've heard just now. But I'm going to go to Anne-Marie just now. Anne-Marie, do you want to just tell us from your perspective about the same thing, about that what matters to you question, and how you've been able to do that through self-directed support?
Hi everyone. Firstly, just let me say it was the first time I'd seen that video, so I'm going to try and speak quieter because I didn't really like what my voice was. So I'm going to try and speak really quiet. Terrible. Anyway, so I come from a social work background, so I can remember the old system and the change to direct payment and then into self-directed support, so I can compare it all. And from a personal point of view, the biggest difference for me has been that it used to be about my illness or about my disability, and now it's about me, or it should be. So that in itself is massive. So what's important to me, it's always been important to be heavily involved in the community, to be making a difference, to helping other people get self-directed support. That is important to me. I know what it should look like, so I want to help people get it the way that they want it and the way that they need it. So to be able to do that, education is important to me. So what I've managed to do now is have a team of PAs, because my illness is very flexible. So from one day to the next, it's different. So I employ a team of PAs that help me with my life, not with my illness. So they help me achieve what I want out of life, as opposed to take care of my care needs, which is what would have happened in the past. So my focus is on getting all the education and all the confidence I can and all the qualification I need to be able to get back out there and get everyone else, or as many people as I can that are in my area, get what they need in the way that they need it too. So that's what my focus is on. So it takes time. It's not happening overnight. And I'm sure everyone knows that local authorities are slowly coming on board, and we're working on it. But yes, it's made a massive difference. And it's I think someone, I can't remember who it was on was speaking earlier, said that it's like night and day, and it is literally like black and white. It's a massive difference. And like I say, I think the best way to describe it is that it's not about my illness, not about my disability anymore, where it would have been. It's about me. What matters to me, not my illness. So it can be anything, whatever that is that matters to me. And I think what people don't often realise is that if you deal with that and let people choose what matters to them, and like everybody else does, so why should we be any different, then you're happy and you're content and your life is the way that you want it. So I didn't say it very clearly in the video, but my point was that if you have that in place, then the other things that have to do with your illness fall into place, because you'll manage your illness better. You'll be more well. You'll be happier. You'll just be healthier generally, because you're taking care of what matters to you. And I think it needs to be that way round. And I think that's the biggest thing that self-directed sport has changed, because it just vastly just changed the landscape completely about it, if you think of it from that point of view. So yeah, that's been what's mattered to me anyway.
Okay, thanks Anne-Marie. I'm gonna go to Marjorie just before we go to the national groups, and just ask you, Marjorie, the same thing. Where, yep. Hopefully.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. I'm a next of kin to a young man who is a wheelchair user, spinal injury, very vulnerable adolescence, and moved from place to place. And it took, for me, the legislation and the policy of our Scots country, for me, it's a very visionary way of looking at helping people to realize their potential. For me, the issues were about accessing it for him, and it was a battle after battle. But when we got there, he is the changes in his life have been exponential. He was able to, he got awarded quite a big award because his disabilities are very severe, and he was able to fund, I think it was 32 hours of care that he was given, or self-directed support, not care, because he chooses. And what he chose was a family who are within his own cultural group, who speak his language, who have his traditions and his culture. And one member of that family is his support worker, but the family, because culturally that's how people do it, divide the support, so that he gets fed traditional food. He gets to cook his traditional food. He gets to, he chooses, he can now drive his life, and he's now embarking on his future and really directing his future. And I'm utterly delighted and thrilled to watch this. It took a hell of a lot of battling. It took me, I mean, I'm a social worker back in the day, and I know my way around the system, and I know how to battle on people's behalf. And my God, was that a battle royal to get him this support, because he kept moving, and because of the way that the structure's set up. Unfortunately, one local authority doesn't do the same thing as another, or accept responsibility when they're supposed to. So there were big gaps in the reality of it all. But for me, it was just an absolute delight to see him now getting the support he needs and directing his own support, making his choices. And to be honest, I am now off the hook with a hell of a lot of things that I used to be on the hook to be involved in doing. I see him directing that himself, and he comes back to me when he needs certain things, and there are certain things that I can do that other people don't. But generally speaking, it's been a joy to watch this process.
Okay, and he's living an independent life then now. Yeah,
life in his own flat, doing his own thing with his own future, directing his own future. he's actually going to be a sportsman. You know, that's his choice, and that's what he's doing right now. So it's been a delight, really. But he needs to be empowered to do that, and still needs the backup. But when he fulfills all the potential he's got, he'll be pressing his own buttons, doing his own thing, you know, completely, in a way that would have been beyond his wildest dreams and my wildest expectations for him, you know.
Okay, thank you, Marjorie.
Pleasure.
Well, great, that's great, thank you. What we're going to do now is we're going to move to our breakout rooms, and I don't know whether Noura, do you want to explain that a little bit, just so everybody's clear about how to do that?
So we'll have 10 minutes in the breakout rooms, and we'll soon open the rooms. And if you can open the chat, there are detailed instructions on how to choose your room. You can choose whichever room you want, which has your preferred language. So we have several different rooms.
Okay, and at the end of the time, do people automatically come back, or does it you have to come back yourself?
We'll close the rooms when the time is up.
Okay, so when the time's up, everybody gets brought back to the main session anyway. So the idea is obviously just to reflect, to think a little bit about what you've heard. You've heard quite a lot of different things there from 4 people in Scotland telling you some of their stories, some of their experience, and more on the film. And you've also heard some of the challenges as well that people have faced in terms of getting things to work well. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that gave you at least a little bit of time just to think about some of the things that you've heard already today. And we are just checking in if there are questions that have come up from those groups that you would like to ask the people here who are here from Scotland who've been telling you about their personal experiences.
Okay, sorry, maybe we will need a little more time in Spanish people because we have to translate them and
yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
just
okay.
Maybe I can
they need a
ask
little time to make the translation to English.
Yeah.
And then
yeah. Maybe I can share the questions in the Padlet.
Yeah, okay, that'll be good, Heidi.
Yeah.
I also think maybe we can also maybe think about how we answer any questions if we don't get to answer them all today as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because obviously there might be other things.
Sorry, Kate, the problem is that the translation is translator is Maggie is putting the question into English.
Yeah. So
and
we wait.
If you speak in English, she have to do the translation.
Yeah, we wait.
It's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Just
wait.
2 minutes.
Yeah. The other thing that we could maybe do is to think about how we, like I say, we can even do a written answer to those questions afterwards as well. We can check out with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heidi, sorry, you're going to share the ones that are in the Padlet.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. But we still need to wait a little bit, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you can show it, Heidi, and we can read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Simon, why are we doing that? Do you want to reflect a little bit on what you were saying there, really, just about history and about time and about change? And
Sure, yeah. Is that okay? I'm not messing anything up. Yes, I can talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying we went into the group that was described as the English group, but was really the Scottish group. I was the only English person in the group. But we spoke and Irini was there from Crete. But we were talking a little bit about not just how positive it had been, but how there are these challenges, some of the stories reflect on the challenges. And I was just remembering back it's 1995, so this is starting to make me feel old, isn't it? I said 50, I got the date completely wrong. 1995 is 26 years ago. I gave a talk in Edinburgh to allies of people with intellectual disabilities, And I remember afterwards somebody coming up to me, a very senior person in the system, saying, "That's very nice, Simon, but that will never happen. They will never allow people with disabilities to control the funding." And of course, now that is the law, and it is the clear direction to advance that in Scotland. But it does take time, and there are different stages of the, I can't think of a better word than battle, but battle is a bit of a, maybe it shouldn't be a battle, but there certainly it feels like a battle at some times, and it does go through these stages. And for me in Scotland in the late 1990s, a lot of the early work on self-directed support was almost done secretly. It was not the official policy. It was things we were doing in Glasgow, in Edinburgh and elsewhere to give more power to people with disabilities. And only over time did that become the official policy. And I think that there's something inevitable in that. I'm sure we can speed up the process. We can make things go faster, but I still think it's a process. There's always going to be some things that have to happen first and some things that will only happen later. And the challenges are also points where you learn to problem solve. And a big part of making progress is figuring out solutions that make at every stage, make it easier to do self-directed support. But you can't press a button. You have to go through the steps. Is that enough, Keith?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Simon. We've got a couple of questions that I think we'll because we obviously don't have lots of time now either, because I'm sure everybody would like to go to a bit of a break, but we've got a couple of questions there. One was about are there any differences in support roles besides personal assistants? And you would normally, the personal assistant would normally be somebody who was directly employed by the person themselves. So either the disabled person or their family member would employ someone directly, and that would be called a personal assistant in our system. But there are lots of people who get their support through organizations and organizations who would employ staff themselves, and they would normally be called support workers or would have a title like that. And that's what Ashley was talking about. So I think Emma was talking about how she employed people directly, personal assistants for her daughter. And Ashley was talking about how an organization employs support workers who actually provide support to her. So there are other ways. So we're talking really about the way that the support is organized there. Whether the person themselves is employing someone directly, or their family member is, or the person is employed by another organization on their behalf, but the person is still involved in choosing, in deciding, and in working out what that staff member does with them. Anybody else anyone from our group want to add anything to that, or does that feel like it's okay?
Keith.
Yeah.
I do both.
Yeah.
Both
you do both, don't you, Daniella? Yeah.
Yeah, I do both. So I employ an agency for part of my support, and then I employ PAs for the social side of my support. So like for going out and about. So the legislation in Scotland allows people to do a mix of these options, if that's what works for them.
Yeah. So you've got some people who you employ, you have a direct payment and you employ directly, and you are their manager and employer.
Yeah.
And some people where you buy the support from another organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it, Danielle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And in Scotland, that's what's called option 4 in our legislation, where people have a mix between what are described as the different options.
Can I say something as well, Keith?
Yeah.
Sorry. What I was going to say is it doesn't have to be about PAs and having people providing you things at all. For example, you could be managing your own fund or receive your fund and spend that on something that changes your family life. I think wasn't there an example of a family who had 2 children, both had different needs altogether. And they were clashing and their family life was really difficult. So what they did with their fund was buy a caravan. Do you remember that case? They bought a caravan that was static next to their house, and it became a room where one of their children was able to have space to themselves because their house wasn't large enough for that to happen. And it completely changed their family dynamic because they were able, so it wasn't about purchasing
needs that people have. It depends
it was about changing how their life.
He or she is living alone without a support circle, without family or.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I think we're just getting some background. Yeah, but I think the important point there, Anne-Marie, is what you're saying is that actually, when you're directing your own support, you might be using some of the financial resources not to employ staff or not to have staff working with you, but to use it in whatever way makes most sense for you, so that you feel supported and you get the support that you need, or your family, your extended family does. Yeah,
it doesn't have to be about employing staff, whatever option you're on. It can, whatever it is that is going to make your life more complete.
Okay. I think there are a few questions that have come through now, and maybe what we should do, I'm just thinking, is that we go to our break just now and come back and hear the experience from Finland, and then we can spend a bit more time after that sharing and talking about some of the questions that are in there, because there's a few questions that have come through there about obstacles, about choosing PAs, about determining the budget, about how public authorities can be persuaded, what's most effective argument, and also a bit about people who themselves might need some support in thinking about what it is that matters most to them, about planning and thinking about support planning and so on. So, okay, lots of really interesting questions there. So I think what we should do is go to our break. It's 11:32, and we scheduled a break from 11:30 to 11:45. So if we just go, obviously we'll stay on. Anyone who wants to can stay on screen, but we can all just go away, have whatever it is that we want to have, a glass of water, drink a tea, cup of coffee, whatever it is, make ourselves comfortable, and be back at 11:45 when our colleagues from Finland will share a bit of their experience. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're now going to have some of our Finland experience from three different people. I think are going to be talking there. What I was going to check is who's going to be first who's going to speak first from Finland.
Ville and Martti are first.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so that's just we will finish. We have an hour and 15 minutes left, and I know there's been quite a bit of conversation in the chat there about the number of questions that we've got, and we do need to think of a way to answer them, all the questions that we can't get to answer today. And certainly from a Scotland perspective, I would be happy to offer that the small group of people who've been here get together and answer the questions and provide something in writing if we don't get to do that afterwards. That's just another suggestion, another way that we could actually do that from the experience of the people who've been here today. But if we move on now, we can go to our Finnish colleagues. And did you said that it is Ville who's going to speak first?
Yes, Ville and Martti.
Okay, Ville and Martti. Okay. So Ville is an expert by experience who participated in the self-directed support pilot in the city of Jyväskylä, and that pilot aimed to provide participants with opportunities to design services that are necessary, meaningful, and appropriate for their own lives. And Marty is Ville's support worker. So if we hand over to Ville and Marty to share their experience, please.
Yes, we will hear from Ville and Marty soon, but first a few words about SDS here in Finland. So for the past decade or so, we have had several pilot projects involving personal budgeting, which is a model and a tool for directing one's support and creating personalized solutions. And to give you a bit more information, let's watch a short video about personal budgets. And if I could ask everyone to turn off their videos while we're watching this video, and you can turn them on afterwards. Thank you. Just a moment.
Personal budget towards more personalized support and services. Service needs vary from person to person. Current social and health services work well for most people, but for you, some other option might be better. What if you could choose your own services instead of relying on the regular options? Personal budget will make this possible. With Personal Budget, you can design a bundle of services that works best for you. In order to check if you are qualified to receive Personal Budget, a service needs assessment is required. The assessment is done with a professional, but you, perhaps together with a family member, can already consider which services would benefit you the most. Your personalized plan is made together with your designated social worker. They will calculate a budget for acquiring the services you need and also advise you on using the budget. Subsequently, you and your social worker will assess the success of the plan together. Is Personal Budget the right option for you? There are as many life circumstances as there are people, and you know your situation best. Personal Budget enables you, alone or with a family member, to actively participate in finding the services that match your needs. Personal Budget will grant you greater freedom of choice and helps you move towards a better quality of life. Contact your social and health services for more information.
So next we're going to hear Ville's story and just a little bit of background information. Ville is a trained artisan who works with mosaics, and like Keith said, Ville took part in this SDS pilot between 2016 and 2017, and since then Ville has worked 3 days a week at an art center in his own studio, side by side with other members of the artist community. And once a week, Ville visits a job coaching service. And before we finally speak with Ville, let's watch a video about his story.
Minun nimeni on Ville Markkanen ja olen mosaiikkitaiteilija ja teen omaksi työkseni tällaisia mosaikkitöitäni. Teen ihan omassa pajassa töitäni esitäni, että isompia että pienempiäkin kylläni. Keramiikassa että myöskään mosaikista tai mistäkään muusta materiaalista voi pystyä tekemään taidetta, niin eihän niin tarvitse olla niin ihan yksinkertaista taidetta, niin kunhan se pitää olla vain uniikkinen kyllä, niin.
Mikä sen työn nimi on?
No tässä työn nimi tulee olemaan kiekkomaailma, niin, joka tässä niin, no vaikkakin tässä on nyt 2 elefantti, niin, joka kantaa tätä niin, tätä maa kyllä tässä niin, mikä on vähän kuin kiekko kyllä niin, tämän suuren kilpikonnan selässä. Niin.
Meitä on sitten taiteilijayhteisö täällä enemmän tai vähemmän 10 taiteilijaa ja aika monipuolisesti erilaisia taiteilijoita on, ja Ville on yksi meidän taiteilijoista. Katsotaanpas miten jännästi, kun sun luonnoksessa on kuitenkin aika yksisävyisiä toi kivi ja meri, niin sitten kun sä teet sen tuosta mosaikista, niin sen tulee paljon enemmän sävyjä, kun sä käytät noita eri laatuja.
Niin totta, niin pitähän kyllä välillä väriäkin vaihdella vähänkin, niin eihän myöskin kaikki niin ihan meilläkin tai taivaskin ihan sinivalkoisena tai ihan sineisenä, niin
3 päivää viikossa Ville täällä käy ja sitten jaksaa vielä kävellä useamman kilometrin päivässä. Tulee noita bussilta ees taas kävelijä, että kyllä motivaatio on miehellä kohdilla.
Kyllä monet ihmiset kyllä arvostavat minunkin taiteita aika hyvin kyllä, niin arvostan kaikki heidän kommenttia kyllä niin intavasti kyllä. Niin.
Mikä sulla on kesken nyt siellä? Onko se, minkä sä teet siihen sun verstaan oveen, että
Joo, niin se on.
se kyltti? Joo. Kaikki ei välttämättä sinne työelämään, niin kuin Villekin kohdalla, kun on tämä kädentaitokoulutus, niin ei sellaisia työpaikkoja tahdo löytyä. Niin kyllähän tällä tavalla niin kuin Villellekin ollaan saatu ihan aito oikea mahdollisuus tehdä sitä juttua, mitä on opiskellutkin ja mikä on sitä paloa.
Niin meilläkin Ville jatkaa kyllä työyksikössä käyntiä, mutta käy muutamana päivänä viikossa ja todella osaa itsenäisesti tehdä tätä taidettakin. Ja tämä on yksi, sanotaan, melkein 100% onnistumisen esimerkki siitä, että tässäkin henkilökohtaisessa budjetissa asiakas pystyy itse määrittelemään sen toiveensa ja tarpeensa, mitä se henkilökohtainen budjetti sisältää ja mitä hän haluaa. Ville saa tehtyä taidetta, silloin työpaja, ateljeetilat ja työyhteisö, taiteilijayhteisö, missä hän tekee ja työskentelee, niin eihän tämän onnistuneempaa ratkaisua voisi ollakaan.
So welcome, Ville and Martti.
Thank you. Thanks. Hello.
Martti, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yes, I'm Martti Särkkä. I'm a job coach. So I have an education from the social work and social services. And I'm a job coach of Ville in the activity center. And that's it. Yeah.
Okay. And Ville, has anything changed since filming the video? How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing quite wonderfully, thank you. It's been quite a normal ever since the epidemic came to this, and it's changed a lot of people's at the works lately, but it hasn't changed mine, and I still managed to overcome it and continue my work.
That's wonderful. And Ville, you took part in this personal budget pilot. How did you decide what to do with your budget? Was it easy for you to choose what kind of support you wanted?
Well, I can't really say that it was not actually easy, but I stand firmly that I want to keep my own pride and continue my own what I do today. Then it's like that anyone's wanted to. It's everybody's a choice of what what makes them especially at work. And that's all I am saying now.
Okay.
But
And Martti, would you tell us a little bit more about your role in supporting Ville in his job?
Well, let's say that our role is to make it possible that Ville can concentrate on his artistic work. So that's his work, and we do some practical things to arrange it. So there's the municipality, the local authority from which I'm working, and we have arranged from the personal budget to pay the rent of Ville's working room in the artistic center Järvilinna, and also from the personal budget there comes the small amount of money for a person, Christian, who was also in the video in the art center. So then Christian gives this support to Ville in artistic things. So he gives some consultancy about the techniques and maybe challenges Ville a little bit, and they communicate about the art things. Whereas we from the Job Coaching Center, we are actually professionals of social services, so we don't know so much about art. So it's important that in the artistic center, Ville has this chance to work as an artist, and from Christian and other artists, he has the artist community also, where he works as an equal artist.
Yeah.
So from the SDS, we just make it possible.
Yeah. And Ville, what does it mean to you that you could make your own decisions and choose your support like this?
Well,
yeah.
Well, I guess it comes from my blood. It just comes from my own choice and what makes me holy deep inside of me. But it's everybody's choice and who they want to choose and what they want to give to everybody and even the whole community.
Yeah. And finally, Ville, what kind of plans or dreams do you have for the future?
Well, I let that down open, but my kind of desire to educate kids about artwork, but I think I can await that for at least over 20 years, I guess, or might more. Unless I'm quite satisfied with my work.
And actually, you have been already teaching some art before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, I'm right that. But when the corona pandemic started, it made everything complex. But it's always been my second dream. But I'm willing to patiently wait and see how it turns out.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. And thank you so much to both of you for being here today, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. And if you can stick around for the questions later, then that would be really, really, really great.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And next, we'll move on to Sanna from Eteva.
Okay, hello everybody, good afternoon.
My name is Sanna Niskavuori, and I work as a manager at Eteva. And I was asked to tell you today about the service provider point of view regarding the transition from institutional care to current services. So I have here a PowerPoint. So I put it here. So I guess it is visible now. I hope so.
Yes.
On se on hyvä.
Okay, yeah. First, a little bit of history. We started our operation as an institution at the end of the 1960s. And this institution was situated in a beautiful rural area by a big lake in Tavastia. And in this picture, you can see the old mansion, which was the oldest building in that residential area. Of course, there were several, actually up to 25 newer buildings as well. We got that 40-hectare area as a donation, and previously it had been operating as a farm. As a matter of fact, I think that this mansion looks a little bit of scary, but it was a very beautiful place at the summertime, especially. Well, we had at the largest about 500 inhabitants there. The services were very well organized for our inhabitants at the time already. We had our own school, hospital ward with medical services, chapel, restaurant, pharmacy, dental care, gymnasium, swimming pools, etc., etc. And large peaceful forests surrounded us. And it was, for example, very easy to take long walks with our inhabitants in those forests. Me myself, I started my career at Eteva as a registered nurse in 2007. And 2009, we were announced that this institution was to be closed in a couple of years. And to be honest, the staff was quite puzzled. We were a little bit afraid for our dear inhabitants of how they would be encountered in the outer world. And when I used the expression or the word outer world, it really describes the situation that we had at the time. We had a little world of our own in that institution, which was somewhat separated, however, unintentionally from the other world and society. Finally, in 2012, the lights were shut down in that institution. Now there is a Greek Orthodox monastery operating in that area. But what it meant to us that we changed so dramatically our operating idea. First of all, the transition from institutional care to current housing and other new services meant a lot of work and responsibilities for the different parties. First of all, there was our clients and their families. When the new residency for our moving inhabitants was decided, we started training as well as them and their family members, but also the personnel in the new housing unit. In that, we made use of the expertise of our specialists, like in the fields like autism, AAC, occupational therapy, as well as psychology. And many of the inhabitants have lived in that institution for decades. So after moving to new housing unit, it wasn't always easy for them to make decisions themselves, which meant that they had to and still have to practice decision making with the help of the personnel or the family. The new housing services meant the possibility to live the life of your own in your own apartment. And then there is the personal point of view. Our institution was the second biggest employer in the rural area, and many families had been working within that institution for several generations. when we reorganized our services for some of the employees, it meant that they either had to move to another town or had to seek another job. This transition required massive education for the employees. Education still goes on, but of course the contents of the education have somewhat changed during these years. And the concept of self-determination had to be taken care of intensively in all activity. This requires more profound professional skills than what the requirements previously had been. And then there is the organizational level. In 2009, we were merged with Uudenmaan Vammaispalvelut. These two organizations had quite different organizational culture, which had to be unified. And we started building several housing units in large area in the southern Finland. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact amount of those housing units, but today we operate in 140 different locations. That figure includes our group housing units as well as the units where the daytime activities are being arranged. Because of the varying needs for the service regarding our old and new inhabitants, we had to establish many kinds of housing alternatives for them to choose from. We have, for example, group housing, living in individually supported flats, and even 2 forms to choose from. And here we have 2 happy-looking guys enjoying their lunch. As an organization, we have been developing our service selection during the past years. The services are arranged as municipal services. We have, for example, an outpatient clinic, which is partly run together with Helsinki University Hospital. And we also have special services which aim to help our inhabitants in their own housing units if there occurs challenging situations. Here we have some activities described. I guess you are familiar with these kinds of activities already. It is important to try to seek suitable working places outside Eteva also. Today we have about 1,600 customers per year, and we have 13,000 employees. For us in the Eteva, the transition from institutional care to present service layout has meant also that we measure at least yearly the client satisfaction for our services. We have certain indicators that we follow to ensure that the services are of good quality. And the latest customer satisfaction told us, for example, that 94% of our clients feel that they can make decisions of their own and their opinions are listened and respected carefully. And of course, the satisfaction of our personnel is also an important factor. And I'm happy to tell you that 81% of our personnel recommend Eteva as an employee to other professionals in this field, and 91% feel happy doing their daily job. And at the beginning, as I told you, I started my career 2007, but in years it is not very many, but I think that the difference in the principles of the care for the people with intellectual disability, the transition can be described like the difference between the night and day. But still, there is much to do for us all. Thank you.
So I'm just going to check with you, Nora. We're planning to go into national groups again now, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So Okay. So we don't need to choose them, apparently. There's something in the chat going there. We don't need to choose them. We will get taken to those national groups. And how long are we having in there, Nuri? Just check that back with us again.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll all be invited to our national groups now to reflect on what we've heard from our Finnish presenters.
Yes, the room should be open now. Heidi, do you want to go through some of the questions?
Well, I think we should go it through with Keith, because there is still some questions from the Scotland's part also, and I think we don't have time to go through all of these. There are so many, and that is really nice and wonderful. And as we were writing in the chat box earlier, that we will get the answers and then write those down and put it on the new website, or share it with the participants, or some way we will also share the answers to all of these great questions. But I think if there is something specific that you were discussing in the national groups, it would be really nice to hear some of those thoughts, and maybe if there were some questions also. What do you think, Keith, we should do?
Yeah, I think maybe it's too ambitious to try and answer all the questions, as you say. I think maybe we can just, if people want to share any of their thoughts from those groups, that might be what we could do just now. And certainly what we've committed to as the group of people who've been involved in those films in Scotland is answering the questions together and providing some answers, sending those in a written form and also maybe in a recorded form as well. So, I mean, just from our group, there's a few things we were reflecting on, really, from hearing from what we've said from Scotland, and also from hearing from our colleagues from Finland. And I think one of the things we're reflecting on is that it's quite a complicated picture, and wherever we look, it's quite a complicated picture, and we can see things that have moved more quickly and see things that have moved more slowly. And we can see places where we can see experiences that have worked really well, and others where there are still challenges to get it to work. And one of the things we wondered about was, what is the current situation in Finland just now? Because we saw the film about the personal budgets, for example, and is that still in its pilot phase, or is it now rolled out more widely, or is it what's the current situation overall in Finland? Was one of the things we were wondering about.
Would you, Petteri, like to take care of this? I think you have the most current overall view of the situation in Finland.
Well, really short answer. It's still in pilot phase for sure. We are just thinking that what kind of legislation it will be for personal budgets and SDS, and they are like couple hundred examples and pilots and tests how it goes, but not so many yet.
Okay.
But in some of the organizations or municipalities, it is a part of the service palette already and ongoing. And there is, of course, the national pilots and all of that, but in some organizations it is already in the service palette also.
Okay. The other thing then really would just be to check if anybody else wants to ask questions directly to Ville or to Marty or to Sanna. since they're here with us still just now, aren't they? Yeah. Is there anything that would help within either within the Padlet or from the groups that anyone would like to ask?
Yeah, please, we're ready.
Can we ask something from Spain?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can I do it in Spanish? And it's a great opportunity for me to speak in Spanish. So maybe you have to press the English translation.
Yes, if you want to hear the question, you need to press the English in the interpretation button.
Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah. Let's try.
Let's try.
Let's try. Vamos a intentar. So in the group where I was, there were lots of questions, but two groups of questions. The first had to do with transitions. How do you transition from one kind of institutional model to a model of 140 different units? And if you could give us just 4 or 5 key elements regarding that transition with relation to the professional roles, the decision-making of the individuals, how to deal with when people don't wish to make that transition. We had lots of questions surrounding transition. And then there was another block of questions and doubts that had to do with the role of what you call social workers when they support a person and the person's family in decision-making. Who are these social markers? Where do they come from? And how are they coordinated? What is the coordination between local administrations and the organizations that provide these services? This notion of interdisciplinary teams, how does that actually work? As you can see, these aren't easy questions. They don't have a quick response, but I imagine the other Spanish group would also like to pose a couple of questions.
Yeah, thanks. That worked fine in terms of translation. In terms of complex questions, I'm not sure.
Sanna, I think these questions were directed to you. Did you get the translation?
Yes, I got the translation, but I think that I should think more profoundly what I'm going to answer.
Yeah, those were quite difficult questions also. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I can answer them later on,
yeah,
that would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the message that Robert, you have the question also.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question for Ville's job coach. We wanted to know if you actually helped Ville with the document for the rent, or you help him by creating a place on his own that could satisfy all his needs.
Well, we help with very practical things. For example, we found the room for him in the art center, but it's the municipality who pays the rent from the decided personal budget. And we help with the arrangements in the room. If Ville needs some materials for his artwork, we go shopping. We help to build exhibitions with Ville, which is of course not possible now during the COVID, and we help with how Ville goes there with the buses and things like this, very practical things. And a little bit we help with the marketing. Ville sells some products, not so much yet, but we're working on it. And then, of course, outside of his artistic work, which is his main thing, once a week he comes to the job coaching center. And here our role is mainly to meet Ville and to answer his questions, his needs, if he has something that worries him. And also he gets some social support here, because here he needs some friends, not artistic friends. Some of them might be, but friends who are from different fields of work, disabled people who have different careers. But he meets his community here in the working this job coaching center, one community, and another community he has in the art center. So we help to sort of arrange this Ville's everyday life so that he has all these important fields of life. Yeah, practical things mainly, and of course some social support, because that's our profession.
Okay, thank you. Just a last question. Can I ask you what kind of training you have to do this job? What kind of training you did?
My education?
Yes.
Yeah, my education is the what is it called? Kandidaat in Bachelor of Social Services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask, but Berta, are there questions from the other Spanish group that you want to, or are there? Have you covered them in the two areas that you described, the movement and the transition movement and so on?
I think that they've put them in the Padlet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can find it in the Padlet also. So.
Okay. Thank you. So has anyone, are there any other questions that we would like to ask now before we move to Simon, who's got the excellent job of trying to draw out some themes from what we've talked about today. Can't see any, so.
Will I say something and then we can all go and have, well, it's lunchtime here, but some of you have all already had lunch and or will have somehow tried to have something to eat. So I was going to try and focus on three things to finish. The first thing I think to always remember, it was said by Anne-Marie and Danielle and Via, in everybody in one way or other, is the reason why self-directed support makes sense. The reason why self-directed support is the future is you've got to start with what matters to the person. It's a simple thing. But if you don't start there, you're in trouble. And it's powerful to start there. Via talked about he answered the question, said, I'm trying to find out what's special about me. And every single human being has something that's special about them. And the journey of life is about uncovering that. So self-directed support isn't special. It's just us trying to take care of each other in a better way. It's us listening harder to what's special and helping that make sense, bringing it into the world. So all of the system stuff is really interesting, but in a way it can confuse us, because really it's about that primary thing. What matters to me? What makes me special? How can I build a life that's meaningful for me? So you've always got to keep coming back to that. Is what we're doing helping people live lives of meaning? Is what we're doing helping people uncover their gifts? If we're not doing that, we've got it wrong. It doesn't matter if that's what the rule book says. It doesn't matter if that's what somebody's told us self-directed support means. We're just wrong. So we need to start again. I think it might, I'm not sure who said now, but talking about an assessment process that started with the question of what was wrong with somebody's life, for somebody whose life was in real trauma. Well, that's wrong. Don't do that. Don't let the assessment process tell us what self-directed support means. Pay attention to the people and their life. So that's the first point. And I think, and I want to say thank you to all of the people who shared their stories, because that's what came through again and again and again. The second point I want to make is maybe a response to some of the questions on the Padlet and some of the questions that were being asked. I have found sometimes I get a little bit confused when people ask me questions which assume that self-directed support is like medicine, or it's like a magical trick. How do you do self-directed support? Because I want to do it in the right way so that it has a good effect. Maybe I'm not explaining this very clearly, but that's the only way I can think about it, is like some people start treating it like it's a magic trick, and they need to find the correct words, the correct professionals, the correct order for everything to be in. It's not a magical trick. It's really, if you're involved as a professional, if you're involved in changing the systems or changing your own practice, it should be being more human. Really, it should be listening better, helping people in a better way, organizing systems that are better for everybody. I think if you are starting to create systems that start to feel worse, more bureaucratic, more controlling, then something's gone wrong. Yes. So pay attention to how you're feeling about it. Pay attention to how you're treating other people in the system. The process should be increasing trust. Yes. Trust between people. The process should be increasing flexibility, creativity, not just for people with disabilities, but for everybody. And again, you know, I can imagine, I can tell people, okay, I think in general, maybe do this, do that, do the other. Maybe there's some helpful pathways, yes? You can say, well, normally, if you do this, then this will help, normally. But sometimes normal won't work. Sometimes you need to take normal and throw it away. And that's true even for self-directed support. So you've always got to come back to like common sense. Use your head. pay attention. Does that make sense? Pay attention to what's really going on. Don't think, oh, I've got them. I've got the SDS book. I'm following the rules for SDS, so everything should work out okay. No. Be a human, pay attention, and listen to the gifts of the person. So that's the second point, really. So every country, every system will be different, and there'll be different things you will have to figure out. But it should always feel more human, or you've gone down the wrong road. The last point, Berta was asking about the question of where do you start? And where do you start when actually even with institutional services, even with services which I might think are not the best services, a lot of people kind of get on okay. We may have bigger dreams for them, but a lot of people don't want to change. That's not their first reaction. And so it becomes quite difficult. So sometimes the new idea feels quite frightening. And we think, well, hang on, how do we change the system? People are used to their care home, their day centre, the routines we've set up. We don't want to change them. So I think in practice, the most important thing is to start where you are, to acknowledge where you are, and to then look for people who want to change, who want to make things different now. It's a simple point, but often systems don't do that. Often systems start change at the wrong point. There will be people who want to change. Find them and work with them. There will be people who may not say they want more control, but who are saying, I'm angry, or I'm upset, or I'm really depressed. Things are going badly wrong. Focus on them. If you focus on the people who want to change and the people who need change, then you'll be okay. What happens is that those people become the teachers of the people who don't want change. Does that make sense? So what happens is, and you see it today, you see the stories from Finland and Scotland can inspire other people. And you think, oh, I never thought about that. I didn't realize I could have done this or this or this. Oh, well, maybe now I'm ready. So I'm repeating myself, but start where you are and start where the real energy, the fire is for change, and bring people on in a human way by allowing the people who are making the changes explain the benefits. So we sometimes call this peer support, but really families listen best to other families. People with disabilities listen best to other people with disabilities. Professionals listen best to other professionals. So peer support can operate at many different levels, and they're not really levels, they're just different groups of people. But your ears open up when you think, that's somebody who shares my experience. They know what I'm talking about. Your ears close down when you're listening to, just another person in a suit and a tie. I think those were my takeaways, really. I think that for people starting in Greece and in Italy and Spain, you've got great people. We're working together here in this network, which is really exciting. If you have the ambition to go big, that's great. If you want to stay small and grow slowly, that's okay too. There's no wrong path here. You have to start by planting seeds and letting things grow, and then you can build on the change step by step. Is that okay? I don't know if I should.
Yeah, that's great, Simon. That's great, Simon, bringing together those different themes like that. I think really we should just say thank you to everybody. Say thank you to everybody who's been involved today, who's come along today, who's shared both their experiences and also their questions. I did see, Petri, that you have put something in the chat there that is requesting feedback, yeah? You want to say something?
Yes, please. It would be really great if you would answer those couple of questions. There is a link to the feedback form.
Okay, so that's something people can do very quickly then, isn't it, Petri? Because it's just a couple of questions that are in there. So
Yes.
that'll help us with both achieving what we need to achieve, but also help us in the planning of future workshops like this. Heidi, did you want to say anything about future workshops and webinars?
Yeah, just reminding that this is just a first one, and we still have plans for 2 others for this spring, and there we are covering also some of the themes that are rising from those questions also in the Padlet, such as the traditional systems versus the SDS and so on. And we have also 2 webinars coming: human rights and self-directed support, and also research about SDS, and those are in May and June. And our partners will also share the information. We are starting to make the flyers this week, so you will get the information, and you can find it also from our new website, which I linked to the chat box earlier.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Thank you to everyone, as we said. Thank you to Noura for your support in organizing and technical support. Thanks to everybody who's presented. Thanks to everybody who's listened attentively, who's stuck with it, who's brought your own questions, and we will work out a good way to provide some more detailed answers to the questions that are unanswered so far from today's workshop. Thank you.